Uh, Good evening, guys. I hope I'm audible. Good evening. Oh, hi, guys. अरे आज इतने कम बच्चे क्यों हैं? Why do we have so less people in the session? Are we expecting more people? Are we expecting more people? So how would have you guys have an idea? Chalo. We can wait for 5 minutes. Chalo, till the time the other people would be joining. If you have any doubts, you can ask me your doubts. Hi, hi. Till the time other people are joining, if you have any doubts, put your doubts in the chat section, and then we'll go around and discuss something. कुछ doubt है? If you have doubts, ask me your doubts. Good evening, Pooja. If you have doubts, give me your doubts. Anything. If you have to ask me related to anything, please push your doubts. And then we have small little 1, 2, 3 things that we'll have a go around and have a look. And ज़्यादा नहीं है आज हमारे पास, है ना? Don't have much things. Sir, when do we use fat arrow functions? Completely up to you. You can use it any time that you want. ठीक है ना? So instead of just writing the keyword function, even if you just write arrow functions, that is like completely fine. DOM for link for DOM traversals. Oh, okay. I can give that to you. So I can just come here. I can just write JavaScript MDN. So this would be the link for if people are finding any reference. So event wala part, event parameter. हाँ ठीक है. Yeah, I did. So you can go around and have a look. I have updated everything on it. I updated it yesterday itself, so you'll find that up. You know, most probably I have. Let me go around and see. अरे हाँ, अभी भेजता हूँ. Let other people join as well. Then I'll share it to you together. कर दिया था 20 hours ago. JavaScript and DOM manipulation. हाँ, you can just come out here as well, or even download the whole folder structure, or even that's okay. हाँ, आज तो we can like talk about few things. So you tell me, either we can like complete the stuff first, and then we can go ahead, and even if you'd be having us any questions related to how what my journey was, what should we study or stuff like that, then we can go around and do that. हाँ, I'll do that, है ना? So ये कर लेते हैं. Let's go around and do 2 to 3 things. I'll tell you a few things that I missed out in JavaScript. हाँ, है ना? And then we'll move to Ajax part, and then we can have a little more discussion. We'll try to cover this out within an hour, है ना? ज़्यादा time नहीं लगेगा, है ना? I'll just give you an overview or an idea about what an API is, how to integrate API or any third-party API for that matter, or even I can even give you a little bit of work to do, and you can actually sit for stuff like that. Sai, ek kaam karna, do one thing. Yeah, so what you can do is, if you want to ask me related to ki how is the website or stuff like that, you can actually give me your links on Instagram. That's going to be completely fine. Okay, so don't feel shy to go around and ping me up on why am I saying WhatsApp? Instagram, so you can do that. Okay, I don't mind all of these things. Chalo. Before we actually go around and do something, fill this form. It's kind of like a feedback form. Mention all your details, your correct details, and the reason is that will follow out both the certificates together. For the people who had joined the previous session also, and for this also we'll forward out the certificate. ठीक है ना? So take a little time and fill that out. और एक काम करना, you can fill this out at the end of the session as well. That's fine. ठीक है? So कर लेंगे. One thing more, on my GitHub, I have basically given you everything on this main.js, right? So everything which is important from basics point of view, I have given you everything. Okay, so you can go around and have a look. I've even mentioned few of the higher order array methods, right? So you can get an idea what for each do, or what map do, or what filter do. And you can even go to the MDN repository or MDN official documentation, and you can actually go around and read from there as well. I mentioned conditionals out here, switch functions, arrow functions, object-oriented programming. If somebody wants, you can actually go around and have a look on that. I've also mentioned props because I was teaching someone, so I've created up this, right? So you can, I've even told you props, and I've even told you ES6 classes as well. So if you want, you can go around. I've pushed everything out there on the GitHub, so you can actually go around and do that. Okay. Chalo. All right, so let's start with the GitHub का link. अरे आपको बताया तो था मैंने कि you can go around and start that up, या clone कर लो या fork कर लो, जो करना है कर लो. ठीक है? अब ऐसा होगा कि so that you have this repository all the time, you can go around and start that out, है ना? So that कि you can find that up in your own repository as well. ठीक है? चलो. So let's start with this part, which is how we're gonna go around and create HTML elements using JavaScript. So shall we start? Start kare. I didn't tell you about this, huh? I didn't tell you that how you will be creating HTML elements using JavaScript. Did I tell you about that? हाँ, बताया था क्या? नहीं बताया था ना? चलो, let's do this, है ना? If you remember when we actually started on working with HTML and stuff like that, I told you that even if you don't have HTML, or even if you don't have CSS, you can actually go around and write everything from scratch just by using JavaScript. So you can actually create HTML elements using JavaScript. Just by using JavaScript, you can create HTML elements, right? And let's have a look at how we can do that, right? So there is a function called as create element in JavaScript, which helps you create elements, right? For example, if let's say, let me go around and open the console first. Okay. So what I can do, I can just come here and I can just say const, let's say div, and I can just come here and say document dot create element, and I can actually give it anything that you want, right? So let's say I want to create a div. So if you'll actually will go around and look at this div, save, you'll find that it has actually created a div. So opening and a closing tag, it has created automatically. Though it does not have anything right now. So for adding something, we can use something called as inner HTML. Do you remember we have talked about inner HTML in yesterday's session? Do you remember that? Right? So using inner HTML, you can go around and paste anything in between if you want, right? So you can actually put something in between. So how to add it back to your HTML, we'll talk about that. The link is the same. YouTube channel ka link is same. In the YouTube channel, you will get all the videos. Don't worry. Okay, so YouTube channel it will keep on updating. So the link is going to remain the same. Okay, the link is same. Now let's say what do you want to do? You want to add few things. Let's suppose you want to add an ID to this div. Okay, so isko मैं cut कर लेता हूँ यहाँ से. I'll console log this afterwards. Or you know what? I can actually paste it out here and I can start writing things. You know. So if let's suppose if I want to add the ID of this div, so what I can do, yeah, it's the same every day. Class link is also the same. Class link is also the same. Okay. So if let's suppose you want to mention the ID, so you can actually mention the ID as let's say div dot ID, and you can put it anything that you want. Let's suppose I want to keep it hello, hello div, let's say. So if I'll save this, you'll see that this div now has an ID of hello div, right? Similarly, if you want to mention or if you want to add a class to this div, You can actually do that by just mentioning, you can say div dot class name. And let's say I want to give the class as, let's say div class or class div, let's say class div. If you'll save this, you can actually have the ID and the classes with the same, right? So it's called as class name, right? So div dot class name, you can mention the div. If let's suppose if you want to create any element which is like let's say an image. Let's say I want to go around and create an image. So I can actually do that, right? So you could see that I now have an image. And in this case, your JavaScript is intelligent enough to not create a closing tag, because it knows, because the image is an inline element. So it will not go around and create the end tag for you, right? So you could see that it only has an opening tag. So in this case, if let's suppose you want to add some other attributes, for example, apart from ID and classes, that is something also that you can do. What you can do is you can, add or set an attribute to the element, which is the source element, right? So you can just come here and say div dot set element. Oh, sorry, set attribute. And in this, you can mention whatever attribute that you want. Let's suppose I want the source, and let's say the value of the source is, let's say, hash. It's not going to go anywhere, right? So if you'll save, you can see now it has a source attribute as well, right? If let's suppose you want to add href in case if you want to create a link, so right, so you can also do that. So whatever attribute that you want to set, you can actually go around and set that attribute for that element. You can just mention the name of the attribute that you want to set and the value of that. So that will do the job for you. Okay, are we good? Are we good? Let's go around and add the data or add the stuff in the in the element, let's say. So how can we do that? It's very simple. I can just come here and say div dot inner HTML, and I can just come here and can mention whatever that I want. Let's say I want to have an h3, and this h3 is going to say element created by the JavaScript. Okay. So with this in place, if you'll save, you'll see that it will now contain the data that you have, right? So let's actually go around and comment this out, and let's actually make it a div rather than just creating up an image. So save, you'll see that this div now has data inside it, which says element created by JavaScript, right? Now you can actually add this back on your document. So if let's suppose you want to include this div in the HTML, or do you want to include this in the document? So that is also something that you can do. So let's say I want to add this after the LIs, right? So what will I do after the LI, after the UL, and after the LI? Let's go around and create a div out here, and let's give it an idea of new div. Okay. And inside this, what will I do is I'll just create up a breakout here and then break after this, which already exists. I'm just gonna save this. Now I have this div. I'm just gonna go around and grab this div real quick. So I just want to include that. So I'm just gonna say const new div is equals to document dot get element by ID. And I guess the ID is new div that we have just created, right? So let's suppose if I have this, and if you want to include this inside this, so what we can do is you can use a function which is called as append child. So what we can do, I can just come here and say new div dot append child, and inside this I'm just going to pass this div that we have just created. So I'm just going to say div, right? So if I'll save this, you'll see that this is now a part of your document. Can you see this? Yeah, it's exactly like jQuery, but jQuery is just a shorthand of writing the same thing. So you can now see that this element, this div element, if you'll go around and inspect this div element was just created. You can see that the ID is hello div, the class is class div, and it is actually an h3 which we have just created by our own self using JavaScript. So you could see that element created by JavaScript. So there is a function called as append child, or you can just use append. That append is also going to do the same thing, or you can also use something called as append child that is also gonna do the same thing. So if you'll save, you'll see that it'll still work, right? So this div will now inside be a div. Okay. You can use append, you can use append child, you can use pretty much anything that you want, and you can see that this is actually working, right? And you can actually go around and do a lot of stuff with just using plain JavaScript and doing a lot of stuff like this. So I hope this makes sense, that how you're going to go around and create HTML elements using JavaScript. So are we good with this? Are we good till here? Right? So you could see that we created this div, and we gave it a class, we gave it a class, or we gave it an ID, we gave it a class. We even, if you want to go around and mention any of the another attributes, that is also that you can do. You can just call this set attribute, and this would do the job. And you can actually include this element inside your document. So we have just added some stuff inside this div, and this div we included it in our document just by using something called as either append or append child. Both will work, right? All right then, so this was it. Let's comment this out. And with this, our DOM is done, right? So DOM is this way how you can go around and have a look on your document in a way which is a like tree-like structure. And this tree-like structure actually helps you do a lot of stuff, right? And this is like very, very important when it comes to web development. Okay, all right. So let's start with something called as Ajax now. Okay, let's start with Ajax. And Ajax is a very important concept within itself, right? It's very, very important. And the reason I'm calling this important is that even when you see a lot of applications being designed for the very first time, what happens is that I gave you an example. Did I tell you about Zomato for the very first day? I think I gave you an example for Zomato, that what would happen if you're thinking of to start your own startup, right? And you would, if you want to create something like of Zomato, do you remember the example, or should I explain it to you once more? Do you remember the example? Okay, let's talk about that. So the problem statement is very simple. The problem statement is that, let's suppose if you're working on a startup, let's say, and that startup is exactly like Zomato. Okay. So in that case, what would be the very big problem that would be in front of you? What do you think? What would be the biggest problem? If let's say you want to start like Zomato, or you want to open recognition, not exactly. That could be done using search engine optimization. So recognition is not a problem. Production, even production would be done. Production is not a problem. You can actually hire some developers and they can, do everything for you. So that is not a problem. The problem is going to be very simple. And the problem is that, think about it, when you're opening Zomato, will you have a database good enough like Zomato? Will you have a database good enough like Zomato? Will you have a lot of information about different restaurants, different cuisines, and at what time do they open, or stuff like that? You won't have database, right? Because you're starting your business for the very first time. So this would be the very biggest challenge that will be in front of you, right? So the problem is key, if you want to, create Zomato, a second Zomato, this is the problem, that we won't have a big database enough to actually go around and, start using Zomato, or just, put it on production. People will start using it because you don't have a database. You have nothing to offer to the client or to the user. So in that case, the data is the most important part, right? And what happens, all of these big companies, right? If let's say that you people, or consider yourself to be the managing director of Zomato, let's say. And as being a managing director, think about it. If let's suppose you have such, gazillions of data related to restaurants or for every city, right? And you have such huge, large database. So don't you think that it would be a good option to earn money from that database? Think about it. When you have such a big database, can't you give your data to all of these third-party developers and earn money out of it just for your profit of the company? Think about it. Won't that be a good option? This is where the concept of API comes into picture. Okay, I hope you're understanding. I hope the problem statement was clear and what the solution came out to be is clear, right? Yeah, not source code, just data, not even source code, just database. Just go give your database to somebody, not source code. Source code is like completely different. uh, the third party developers can make their own application, okay? But what you're giving is just, it's fine, Mr. Lana, it's fine. Yeah, the data is going to see, the data actually belongs to Zomato. I'll give you an idea. The data is still going to be of Zomato. Correct, correct, correct. Even when you talk about FedEx actually gives its APIs to a lot of third-party developers, and these third-party developers actually makes use of FedEx and do all the delivery services and stuff like that, right? So they actually do not need to write a lot of code for the same. All they do is Ajax. So this is where Ajax comes into picture, and this is where API comes into picture. Yeah, of course they have privacy. When you're actually using somebody's data, you actually will have to give them a credit for the same. You'll have to mention down there powered by Zomato or powered by Google or something like that, right? So a lot of people and a lot of websites you might have seen that they write something called as powered by Google, or powered by something, or powered by Zomato, or you see just a little bit of a sign out there. Okay, fine, you get an idea. Even Google Maps, when you see Google Maps, for an example, when you see Google Maps being integrated into a lot of, see, everybody don't have a time to actually create their own maps, right? So what they do is just they integrate Google Maps into their own application, and they'll be happy. They'll be like, okay, fine, my users is going to use the services of Google Maps. You might have seen a lot of, even Ola, Uber, you might have seen a little bit of a like a little bit of a watermark down there at the bottom, and be like, this is powered by Google, or this is powered by something, or this is using Google Maps behind the scenes, right? So this is the case. So when you're actually creating third-party applications, what you can do, you can use these big companies databases and can create your application out of it. One of the things, or this is where APIs comes into picture. API is basically short for application programmable interfaces, right? So what these companies do, they create their APIs and they expose their APIs to third-party developers, right? And these third-party developers, they integrate this API into their application. And this is where Ajax comes into picture. Ajax is a way to integrate third-party APIs into your application. And how do we do that? Let's have a look on that. So before I actually go around and do something like this, let's go around and have a look on few APIs, right? And the very basic API, a very free third-party API that I'm going to take in this session is going to be GitHub, right? I'm going to make the clone of GitHub. So that is what we'll be doing in this session. We'll be creating a GitHub clone in this session. So you ready? Are you ready? So shall we move? Okay, let's go around and create a small little GitHub clone for us. Okay. So let's go to one a website which is called as api.github.com/users. So this is an API. This is how an API looks like. So I'm just going to go around and expand this for you people. I'm just going to increase the size. As well. So just have a look on it. Okay, everyone can see this. Everyone can see this. Chalo, let's go around and have a look on it. And let's try to analyze this page very carefully. Now, if you actually analyze this page, if I ask you, if you'll have a look out here, which is this symbol, just let's start from very start. Let's start with the symbol. I told you when I was teaching you JavaScript, what does the symbol mean? The square brackets. What does these square brackets mean? Anyone? In JavaScript, no, square brackets. I'm saying square array. It's an array, right? It's an array. And what is this? Curly brackets. This is an object, right? So can I not say that every API that you'll get it in the same format, which is like array of objects, right? So if you'll have a look on it very carefully, you'll find this API to be an array of objects. So if you'll scroll down, you could see this is where the array is ending. And all of these objects are being mentioned out here, which are separated by the commas. So it looks like an array of objects, right? But this array of objects is little different than the array of objects that we have seen. For example, if I actually go out here in the main.js where we have created array of objects, sorry, where we have created array of objects. Just a second. This is object literal. This is array of objects. Now just take this. Just take this to do's. Just take this and try to compare it with this part. The only thing or the only difference that you'll find out is that the right hand side is a string. That seems okay, but the left hand side is not a string in case if you're working on array of objects. Can you see that? If you're talking about array of objects, the key part, which is this ID or text or is completed, this is not inside us. It's not like this. This is not like this. But if you have a look on this API, you could find that even the key pair, the key is also in the form of a string. Can you find that out? Can you figure that out? So this is a difference between when you talk about what is an array of objects and what is a JSON. This is called as JSON, which you're seeing on the right hand side. This is called as JSON. Okay. What does this JSON do? This JSON is going to look exactly like as that of array of objects. But the only difference is going to be that in array of objects, the key is not a string, but in case of JSON, even the key and as well as the value, both are in the form of string. So that is why we call this JSON. JSON means JavaScript object notation, right? So every API that you'll find throughout the internet, you'll find out that every API has to be in the form of a JSON, which looks something like this. Now, the point here arises, what's so special about this JSON? A lot of people would be thinking, okay, fine, yeah, it's just plain text. How is that a data, right? This data is really actually very helpful when you are okay. So यहाँ तक तो किसी को कोई doubt तो नहीं है. I hope यहाँ तक everybody is okay that what we have talked about. हाँ, अभी बात करते हैं इसके बारे में, ठीक है? अभी बात करते हैं. सुन लो. I told you about the certification that would be done alongside with the first certification, and the certification for the same would be done on same day. Because see, पता है हो क्या रहा है? The office employees that we have, so because of COVID, we are not able to gather together, and this is making a lot of communication gap. Yeah, no, I'm not. So what happens because of this COVID stuff? There is a lot of okay, you are not Python, you are a full stack. Good. I didn't get your question. If you're asking me a question, I actually didn't get it. Give me full stack. I didn't get you. Can you just write like proper English so that I could understand what you're trying to explain me? Yeah, that's true. That's true. Certification. When you're attending full stack, how can I give you the certification for Python? This is really confusing. It's really confusing. We'll talk about it at the end of the session. Let's not distort the session in between. No, let's not distort the session. Okay, I'll talk to you about this, right? You can unmute yourself and you can talk to me about it. All right, so yeah, Sai. So in API, even the key and even the value, both are going to be exactly the same thing, which is going to be strings, right? So even the key part and even the value part, both are going to be string. Now, a lot of people would be thinking that what's so different about this? It just seems out to be just like text, right? It's nothing hard and fast. It's just text, right? You'd be finding out that, hey, it's just text. But what's so important about this text that if you'll actually, there are a lot of links, first of all. So there are a lot of links, right? You can see that you have a lot of links. And you could see that you have a username as well. If let's suppose if I'm talking about this username, this is a username, right? For example, I have a username of something. You would be having a username of something, right? So let's say we are talking about this particular person, who has a login or who has a username as Monjombo, whatever. I don't know what that means, but yeah, it's a username for somebody. Okay, and this whole object is basically the details which is related to this username. Okay. This username also contains, no, of course not. Why would they should? Even a lot of companies, for example, Twitter, for example, Apple, for example, a lot of companies. I'm not talking about Facebook out here. They actually don't keep anybody's password. They don't. They encrypt everything up and they store it in their databases. Yeah, they encrypt this up and they store it in their databases in an encrypted form. So they don't have any access to your password. Even they don't know what that is. But if you have a look on this avatar URL, which is basically called as the DP that you put on, If I'll actually copy this up and go to a new link and you'll paste this up, and if I'll actually press this enter, can you see that there is an image? Can you see this? There is an image. So what they are doing, they are actually passing an image in their JSON, right? In their JSON, just, yeah, it's a profile picture. It's a profile picture of a person whose username is this, right? Rajan, I hope this makes sense now. Okay. So this username has a DP of this, right? And they're passing all of this data in form of this, right? So you could see that this data is just not bare minimum text. Rather, this is a text which is going to help other developers to go around and clone something like this, right? Then you could see that if, let's suppose, if you want to go and access his GitHub, you can actually copy this out and go out here. You can actually access his own GitHub. So if you'll click out here, this will take you to his person's GitHub, as you can see out here. This is the person who has around, oh, he is quite famous, dude. So it's like around 22.5K followers, right? And he is definitely somebody, right? But his GitHub chart doesn't say so. But anyways, right? So he's quite popular, kind of like a guy, right? And he would be bragging around, you know, API may, when you go around and search for APIs, my name is at the top or something like that, right? Just kidding. So you can actually see, you can now actually create something like, now can you figure out that, yeah, we can, if we get this data on our HTML, we can actually go around and create a full-fledged application which will be a GitHub kind of like a clone system. Hai na? I hope now this is making sense to everyone. Yeah, is this making sense? So you can now see here, you can see, we definitely don't have a lot of time. So you can actually go around and have a look on Zomato's API. So Zomato has given up a few free APIs for students to actually go around and test the application. So you can do that, but it takes a lot of time. So I'm not taking that example. You can actually go around. You can take it as your project. You know? There are a lot of users. You could see that this is user number 2. So if you'll have a look on the DP for user number 2, you'll find out that this is another user, right? So if I'll click, so you could see, oh, dude. Okay, yeah. So he's another user. So you can actually go around, go around and have a look on other people's DP if you want, right? So you can do that. Yeah, he's definitely a cool dude. Yeah. Oh, okay. So he seems to be quite a professional person. You can search him from username. They have given you the whole URL if you want to go to somebody's GitHub. They have actually given you the whole URL. Oh, sorry. They've given you the whole URL for the same, which is this. This part. You will copy this out, paste it in your URL. Right? So you can go on his GitHub as well. Right? You can search, you can do anything that you want. So I hope now the concept of API makes sense to everyone, that what is this API and what's gonna do. Everyone is okay till here? We good? Guys, are we good? Right? Chalo. So let's go around and integrate this up on our system. No, that is completely up on GitHub, right? What they have exposed, that is completely up to GitHub, that what data they have given you. It's not like you can go around and do that as well. Might be a situation that they might have given you the search option. I'll have to go through, the official documentation that what all the things that the GitHub do. But let's go around and do that. At the end, I'll be telling you that how you can go around and do, or build the wholesome of an application for the same. So shall we do that? Kare? Chalo. All right, then. So let's move ahead, or rather what we can do is that let's go around and create a new HTML for the same. Let's go around, or rather I'm just going to go around and create a folder inside us, and I'm just going to call this Ajax. And inside this Ajax, I'm just going to go around and create a new file. I'm just going to call this index.html. No, I'm just going to call this Ajax, and inside this, I'm going to create another file. I'm just going to call this main, or rather let's call this app.js. Okay. So in this HTML, let's go around and do something. Okay. Now inside in here, let's go around and do something. Let's put a div. Okay, and we'll be doing something inside this div. But as of now, let's go around and save this and run it out here. So I'm just gonna say JavaScript / Ajax / index.html, right? So this is the document. It doesn't have anything. Crash course I can do, but the point is that I don't have much time, right? But if you'd be needing any guidance, feel free to ask me if you'll have any doubts for that. Chalo, let's go to this app.js, and at the end, let's go around, add the script. And the script, I'm just gonna give the source as JavaScript Ajax app.js, save. And if I now actually go around and write console log Ajax, save, so it's done. Okay, so we've done this. So let's go around and start to talk about Ajax. Okay, let's start to talk about Ajax. Now, everyone, just pay attention that how we're gonna do Ajax. It's a very minimalistic code. I'm not gonna go in very in depth about this, because if you'll actually go around on the in depth of Ajax, you'll have to go around and learn a lot of things. For example, client server architecture, and how server sends you a file. Actually, you know what? I have a YouTuber. He's very good at JavaScript and all the front end frameworks. So just in case if you'd be needing him, I can give you the link of his channel. Okay, I'll paste it down if you want. I've seen his videos and he teaches phenomenally. Just in case, but he teaches everything in very in depth, but he teaches it quite fast, right? So just in case if you'll feel stuck, at the end of the session, I'll do it. For the people who would be needing it, calm down. If you'd be needing it, you can text me up, I'll give it to you. Okay, I'm not going to share it out here, but if you'd be needing it, I'm just going to so whoever would be interested, you can just go around and DM me up and I'll give you the link. Okay, chalo. Let's start. Chalo. So now here, what we are going to do, we are going to do something called as Ajax call. It's called as Ajax call, and here we'll be doing or integrating GitHub API. Okay, so it's a very simple procedure, right? And this procedure is going to be exactly the same if you want to go around and do any of the, or you want to integrate any of the other APIs as well. So that is something that you can totally do, right? So I'll just break everything down step by step. Okay, first thing first, step number one is to use something called as Xml Http request. And what does this Xml Http request do for you? It helps you establish a connection. No, not exactly. Who told you that? No, it's not like that. So XML HTTP request, this helps you establish a connection between client and server, right? So step number one is to actually go around and use this, which is called as XML HTTP request. What does this XML HTTP request do? This helps you to establish a connection between the client and a server. Who is the client? We are the client. And who is the server? GitHub is the server, right? So this is the API that we want to integrate, which is this api.github.com/users. This is the server and this is the client. So we are the client and the server is the GitHub server, right? So how do we do that? What we need to do, we have to create the object of XHR. XHR basically shorts for XML HTTP request. So a lot of developers just call this XHR. Okay, so we'll do the same thing. We'll create the object for XHR. How do we do that? Very simple. Create a variable. You can name it anything. I'm gonna call this XHR is equals to new XML HTTP request. Right. So this is step number one. Step one, use XML HTTP request, or I should say create an object for XML HTTP request. Right. Step one. Are we good with step one? Are we good with step one? Step one is good. This step 1 is going to be consistent throughout anywhere you want to use Ajax. This step 1 is going to be the same. Then let's talk about step number 2. Step number 2 is to open the gate for the communication, right? So step number 2, open the gate for communication. Communication for what? Communication between client and the server. Again, here the client is us, the server is Ajax, your GitHub, right? So how do we do that? Very simple. You just call this XHR. Now this is the variable that we have created, XHR. There is a function called as open. So we just say XHR.open. What is XHR? XHR is this XML Http request. So XML Http request, we call this in short, we call this XHR. So X in the XML Http, H in HTTP, and R in request. So we just short this out and we just call this XHR, right? And I've created up a variable called as XHR, and this is the object of XML HTTP request. Preeti, I hope this makes sense. I hope this makes sense. Okay, so I hope now you know that what is XHR. This is XHR. Okay. Now, so second thing, open the gate for communication between the client and a server. So we'll grab this XHR and we'll open the gate and we'll say, hey, I want to get the data, and get the data from where? From this URL. What is the URL? Let's go around and create the URL out here. Let's say const URL, and this URL contains the actual URL where it actually needs to go, which is api.github.com/users, which is this link, right? Which is this link. This is the same link, https api.github.com/users. And this is the link. This is the URL that we have provided. And we have passed this URL in here in the open function. So this open is going to do what? This open is just going to open the portal of communication between both client and the server. I hope step 2 is clear to everyone. Step 2, you good with step 2? Everyone, I'm asking this to everyone. Other people, we good? Others, we good? Chalo. Okay. Now the next thing is to make your page ready to receive the response. Now the server will be throwing you out with the response. That response is going to be the JSON response, right? So the JSON response would be coming from the server to the client. So now you'll have to make your client ready to receive the response. Now how do we do that? We just say XHR dot on ready state change. So how do we make our page ready to receive the response? We call this on ready state change. And this on ready state change basically is now ready to accept the response. And the moment it's going to be ready, it's going to call a function. And this function is what we'll be creating. Now here, somebody was asking me, sir, when to use arrow function. Now here you can actually use arrow function rather than just calling this function. So I'm just going to replace this with arrow function. All right. Okay. So this is going to look something like this, right? So we are saying, hey, etc. Be ready to receive the response from the server side. The server is going to throw you with some response. Be ready to handle that response. And once you get this response, you'll have to execute this function, right? We good till here? We good till here? Step number 3. Step 3. Okay. Step 3 is to make your page ready to receive the response. Now it's the step number 4, which is the second last step. So step number 4. Step 4 is actually very simple, is to check if everything is okay. If everything is okay. And how do we check that? Have you seen a lot of error codes? Have you seen error codes like 404? Does anyone knows what is the error code 404? Error code 404. You might have gone through the internet. No, it's not a network problem. It's called as page not found error. You might have seen page not found or URL not found or something not found in error, right? Same is the case, a code which is called as code 200. Anyone knows about code 200? Code 200. So if you'll actually go around and search for code 200, So I'm just gonna write response code 200. So this response code 200, what does this do? If you'll actually go around and read this about this. So this is a server transmitting something, proxy means something. And if it's received a code of 200, which means okay. Can you see this? If it receives 200, that means anything that was transferred from the server side to the client side, if everything seems out to be okay, it's going to give you a response of code 200. Everyone can see this. And there are a bunch of list of codes that you can actually go around and have a look on, right? So 200 or starting from 2, it's always going to be success. 3 or which is starting from 3, it's always going to be redirectional. If it's starting from 4, it's going to be client error. For example, 404. So it's a client's mistake that he has given us the wrong URL. So that is why we call this 404, which is not found, right? And then 500 are all the server errors, right? So 504 or 503 is like very famous response, which is service unavailable. Sometimes your server crashes and you sometimes don't get a response. So it starts to show you a code which is called as 503. So I hope you can go, I'll just give you this document as well. You can actually go around and have a look on different response codes if you want. Correct, right? Correct. I can relate. Even a lot of government websites always gives you 403, 403, oh, 503, 503, service not working. Oh, I just shared it to just one person. Oh, I'm so sorry. So this is where you can actually go around and learn about different codes if you want. So now here, the problem here is to just check that if everything which was transmitted has been transmitted okay or not. Yeah, they are asked in the interviews as well. So I can just gonna check here. I'm just gonna say if this XHR dot status, if this comes out to be 200, then I'm going to do something. So I hope step number 4 is okay. So step number 4, we actually need to check that everything which is getting transferred from server side to client side, everything happens in a smooth way and everything is okay. So how will we find this everything is okay? So we have put a condition. We said only do something only if everything seems out to be okay. And what we need to do, we just need to console log the xhr.response text. That's it. So this response text is going to be the text that will be coming from the server side to client side. And now it's going to be the last step. Step number 5 is to send the request. Send the request. And how do we do that? Very simple. We just write xhr.set. I hope this code is okay to everyone. Just go through the code once more and see if you could find out any problem with the code. Step 1, use XML Http request. How? By creating the object of XHR. So you could see that we have created an object for XHR. Step number 2, open the gate for communication. So we are just going to say that, hey, I'm going to get the data from this particular URL. So you just say xhr.open get. Nothing new here. When did I say that it's going to be something new here? Right? I hope this is making sense now. I'll be telling you what's going to be new. Don't worry. But I hope this code is okay for everyone. New means you're creating objects. When you create an object, then you put new in front of something. Yeah. Yeah. XHR is definitely compulsory. It's compulsory. Like if you're not going to use XML HTTP request, then it's not going to do this. Please repeat step number 4. Step number 4, Twinkle, it's like that now your page is ready to receive response. But sometimes what happens is you'll have to go around with a lot of networks and stuff like that. No. URL is going to be from where do you want to get this is the URL of the server. That's it, Gayatri. This is the URL of the server from where you will have to get the response, right? Jahan se response aane wala hai, from where the response is about to come to the client side. This is the link of the server, right? This is the link of the company or the company URL or the API URL from where you are about to get a response. So URL is that. Okay. So somebody was asking about step number 4. So step number 4 is that you are now ready to receive the response. So sometimes what happens, if you might have studied network, so there are a lot of models, right? So TCP IP model, OSI model, there are a lot of models. And what happens in these models is that sometimes when you're using these models, there is a packet loss or a data loss. And what happens is while something is getting transferred through the network, few data gets lost in between. Sometimes happens something like this. So just to make sure that no packets were lost in between, you'll have to check that everything that was being transmitted from the client side, well, from the server side to client side is completely okay. If it's okay, that packet will have a package called as status, and that if that status comes out to be 200, we'll figure out that whatever packet that was transferred, yeah, the data packets which were transferred from the server side to client side were basically transferred successfully. So right, so in this case, if the XHR of the status comes out to be 200, we'll verify that everything which was transferred from the server side to client side basically reached to the client side safely, or everything was okay while the transmission. Twinkle, I hope now this makes sense. Step number 4, right? So you're just being cautious. Even if you'll not write that, it will work, but it's good to write that. It's a good practice. So everyone is okay for the code, what we have written for Ajax. Are we good till here? Guys, are we good till here? We good? So now if I'll save this, can you see the data getting transferred and getting logged on your system out here? Can you see this? Can you see this data? Right? So this data was transferred from the GitHub's API to your application. And what you did was you just console logged this, right? You did nothing, but you console logged this. And you can actually log this back on your HTML if you want. So let's do that. So whatever data that we are console logging here, I want this to console log out here. So let's go around and do that, shall we? Whatever data which is in the console, let's go around and print this on the white page or whatever we have in the document. Let's go around and do that. Now, what we'll be doing, let's gonna go around and comment this out. Right now, what would happen? Internet connection to obviously chahiye hoga because something would be transferred, right? So you'd need running internet connection, that is for sure. Okay. Now, we want this data which is in our console to the document, which is this white page. Now, if you remember, if I'll go back to dom.js, oh, not dom.js, main.js, I told you about something called as JSON. Did you remember? Do you remember? We talked about this, that we can actually convert any array of objects into a JSON. Do you remember? We talked about this. Yeah. And the method we used to use was stringify, right? And stringify used to do what? Stringify used to keep the key part of the data in strings as well, right? And what would happen now? We want to reconvert this into an object format, because what we want is to put this JavaScript in the document. Okay, guys, okay na? So this is what we'd be doing. Shall we? Guys, shall we do this? Kare? Other people? Okay. So now what we'll do, first of all, I'll be converting JSON to array of objects. That is what I'll be doing first. So how will I do that? I'm just going to say var data is equals to JSON dot parse. So if you want to convert JSON to array of objects, you use a function called as parse, right? And the opposite of the same, when you actually want to convert array of objects to JSON, you use something called as stringify. So keep that in mind. Okay, don't get confused. No, just parse. And then what are we going to parse? We are going to parse xhr dot response text, right? And now if I actually go around and console log this data, save, now you'd see that you are getting the array of objects. Can you see this? Can you see this? Now you're getting an array of objects back because you converted that data into you converted JSON into array of objects, and this is where your array of objects are coming from. So you can actually have a look on all of these objects out here. Can you see this? Guys, can you see this? Okay. So now your JSON data is now converted into a array of objects. right? And I have stored this data inside this variable called as data. Are we good till here? Are we good till here? Okay. Chalo. So I'm just going to go around in console log. I'm not going to go around in console log. Rather, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to get this div. If you remember, I created this div and this div does not contain anything. So what am I going to do? I'm just going to put this have an ID and I'm just going to say div1, let's say. Okay, so I'm just going to go around and save this, go out here. I'm going to grab this. So I'm just going to say where div, let's call this div, is equals to document.getElementById, and the ID which I've just given is div1. And what I can actually do, I can just say div dot inner text is equals to the data. Oh, so it's going to give me object, right? Ooh, this is all object. So rather, what I can do here is, चलो एक काम करते हैं. Let's say now in here we are getting an image. And we are getting the name of the username, right? So एक काम करते हैं, इस div के अंदर let's go around and create an image tag. ठीक है? हाँ, उसकी values को extract करते हैं and let's keep this ID as image and let's do one thing. Let's put a break and in here let's make a h2 or maybe let's make an h2 and let's give it an ID of heading. Okay, so let's do that. So what am I going to do? Rather than getting this div1, I'm just going to get an image which has the ID as image, and then I'm also gonna get var heading, or let's call this image1 and heading1 is equals to document.getElementById, and what is the ID that I've given? Heading, and I'm just gonna say heading. Right now, see here, what am I going to do? I'm going to paste the image from the response to source, right? So अब मैं यहाँ पे क्या करूँगा? I'll just say image जो मेरे पे आई है image dot set attribute. What was the attribute that I want to set? I want to set the source attribute to this data, and this data is basically, this data is array of objects. So I'm just gonna say data 0 dot avatar URL. So if I actually go around and save this, you could see that we are getting the data from the GitHub and we are putting this and pasting this in our application. Okay. So second thing that we can do, we can just say heading 1 dot inner HTML dot inner HTML. We are just going to paste this. We're going to say h3, let's say h3, and we're going to say username, and let's go around and put backticks rather than putting this. And here I'm just going to paste the name as $, this, and I'm just going to say data 0 dot, what was the value? It's called as login, right? So data 0 dot login. Save, and you'll get his username as well. So can you find out that actually this is all so interrelated? that you can actually go around and create a full-fledged clone of GitHub where you can say that these are the following users of, it's just an example, right? Just an example. This is going to sound useless as of now, but this is actually helpful when you actually go around and use Ajax and integrate third-party applications into your own project, right? So that is something that you can go around and do. Okay. So I hope this is making sense now, that how we're going to paste the image and the response from whatever that's coming from the server side to your own application. So this was the data which was given to you by GitHub, and you can see that this data, you're pasting it in your own document just by doing some DOM manipulation, and you could see that you're putting everything just like this. Again, you can go around and put Bootstrap and stuff like that, and could make it look a little pretty, right? So that is something that you can do. So I hope this is all making sense now. Is it making sense? How to access two user, username and image at a time. Again, for loop, 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 for loop. See, now try and understand. Now it's an array of objects. You can go around and manipulate it however that you want. ठीक है? आपको जैसे करना है आप वैसे कर सकते हो. That's not an issue. ठीक है? That is not an issue. You can go around and do that. ठीक है? Mostly assignment asks to fetch the data in the interview. They'll be asking you a lot of questions. So I've just barely even scratched the surface of Ajax. There is a lot of things that you can actually learn around with Ajax, right? So first of all, they'll be tapping you in with client server architecture. So I'll highly recommend you actually go around and have a look on client server architecture. For the people who have learned computer networks, go around and learn your computer networks first, because that's going to be a little more easier for you people. They'll be asking you what is the utility of on-ready state change, what's going to happen if I don't write on-ready state change, what would be the alternative of on-ready state change. So there is another thing which is called as on-load. So on-load and on-ready state change, on-load and on-ready state change, they both have the equal functionalities, but the point is that their working, the internal working of both the methods is like completely different, right? So there are a lot of frequently asked questions. You can actually go around and you'll find a lot of frequently asked questions on Ajax. Actually go around and have a look on them. Perfect. So are we good till here? Anything that you want to ask? If you're good till here, just give me a big yes, we'll move ahead. If you're good, just give me a yes and we'll move ahead. So yeah, so this is a very interesting topic, by the way. Okay, we didn't do much in Ajax, but I hope I gave you a little of an idea that how you're going to go around and include third-party application in your own application. Okay, chalo. So yeah, so I'm just gonna keep it till here for today, and I highly would recommend you doing that for certifications. Go and submit and write your details in this form. Okay. And if you have any questions, if you have any queries, we have all the time. Okay. And if you want to ask anything related to anything, maybe your career guidance or what should study, what should we not, or anything that you have, you can ask me your doubts, or else we'll end up with the session. And from Tuesday onwards, we'll be starting up with React. Okay. My journey to Apple. So I'll tell you what my journey is. My journey would sound like very crazy, right? But it's all truth. I was kind of like a good student, like since throughout when I was in my childhood. So I was like a good student. And what happened is that I was very aspirant about engineering. I can drop my Instagram, but dropping my number is going to be way too much. So this is my Instagram handle for the people if you want to go around and reach me out, or even you can actually reach me up on LinkedIn if you want. So LinkedIn. I hope, Sai, that these sessions were actually beneficial for you. Yeah. You can do a lot of things. So just in case you want to reach me out on LinkedIn, so this is the LinkedIn. Okay. So yeah, I was telling you about the story. So I was like pretty decent in studies. So what happened is that I was very aspirant towards engineering. I don't know why. I was very fascinated when I used to look at computers and stuff like that. Yeah, you can sign. Definitely you can. Then what happened is that I was very passionate towards engineering, specifically computer science, and I was like pretty okay, kind of like a student. And luckily, in my 12th standard, I got a good percentage. So my parents, encouraged me to actually write the papers for IIT. So I wrote the papers for IIT, and luckily, I got one of the best colleges, which is like very famous for computer science engineering. So I got admissions at IIT Bombay. Okay, so I'm an IIT Bombay graduate, and then what happened was that like around when I was in like third year, one of my professors, he was one of the very inspiration in my life. That professor, he used to teach us data structures and algorithm, right? So he was very close to me. So his friend was actually looking for an intern at Apple. Yeah. So what happened is that my professor's friend actually flew down to Bombay, and he interviewed me up for the position of an intern. So luckily I was writing a research paper out there. Yeah, even for the people who want to work for my, oh, never mind. So I wrote a research paper, and that research paper actually got published on an international journal. And that was like a very biggest achievement that I've got as of now, that I've written the research paper in an international journal. So that's like pretty cool. So I was still working on my research paper at that time. So I was like too much into research. So I was like into too much of the domains and different parts. So I was working on computer networks. I was working with C and a lot of things at that time. So I got hired as an intern at Apple, and I worked there for like around 1.5 year. And before I actually graduated, I was already working at Apple, right? So that's been a very great journey. So my internship got converted into a PPO, which is called as pre-placement offer. Oh, that's really sweet. I'll take it as a compliment. So thank you very much. Anna. So see, I'll tell you what, because something has good has happened in my life where I have a very a very hearty heart towards my professors, because he was the one who actually transformed my life like suddenly. So we were just having discussions like, what do you want to do in your life? So I was like very fascinated with Apple products, and be like, everybody has a dream company, and for me Apple was one of those companies, right? So I was like, yeah, I'm thinking of to go around for like, I'm applying for FANG or something like this. So he was like, yeah, actually one of my friends is working at Apple, so if you want to like sit down and interview with him, that would be like great. He could actually give you some opportunities. And I was like, yeah, so that's going to be Tesla ke liye. So I'll tell you what, Tesla ke liye, either you should be very good at like space, aeronautics and stuff like that, or either you should be a very good mechanical engineer. So that is the case. Oh, that's really so. See, pata hai, what I have a thinking about is that how my professor actually, turned my whole life upside down. That is one of the reasons I'm very passionate towards teaching, and that is one of the reasons I teach all of these things. How did the idea of technology for all came through? Okay, so I'll tell you what. I uh, I have been working with a lot of different edtechs. Like name the edtech, and I might have worked out there. Have you ever heard about Upgrad? Have you ever heard about Upgrad? Yeah, I'll do that. Right. So I have taught at Upgrad. I have taught even professional people at IBM, Accenture, Wipro. I've taught all of these people it directly to the company, and I've taught with these all of these startups like Upgrad. I've taught in Simply Learn. I've taught pretty much everywhere for that matter, right? So I was like, okay, so I generally had a like a very good impact on students, and being like, sir, we understand what you teach. So I was like, I think that I'm good at teaching, maybe. So uh, same was one of the other friend that you had a discussion with. I believe you might have seen or heard from Kanav, right? So he's also a very good friend of mine, right? We hang out a lot, and sometimes we were just sitting together, and we were being like, I have, kind of. So I started up, and I was like, kind of, what, I am thinking of to go around and do something for the students and stuff like that. So it was like, what, let's go around and start something up. So I was like, okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So we started up with all of these things. Oh, that's really sweet. That's really sweet. So yeah, we are just even if I could like make a lot, a good impact on some students' life, that would be like my greatest achievement, and be like, I actually, change somebody's life or stuff like that. And that is why I never mind any of the students actually texting me up or giving me, okay, sir, we need this, or maybe something like that, or so I don't mind anything. So even when you'll be, even some students might have, I'm not sure if they are in the session or not, some students have actually texted me out late at like 10, 11, 12. So I'm even completely fine with that. So I'm like, I'm just helping students out, oh, that's really sweet. But anyways, let's not get carried away, Hannah. So yeah, again, throughout the entire, like for your learning process, if you need any help, don't hesitate to ask me related to anything. Okay, be it be study material, be it be guidance, be it be anything. Even if the sessions get over, that's completely fine, right? You can stay in touch, and if you get stuck anywhere, I'll be more than happy to help you out. All right. Let's not talk about it, Rupa. That is like completely different part. But yeah, I'll tell you what. I started my package from a very less of around 4 LPA. I started up with 4 LPA, and I'm not lying, right? And I actually started from 4 LPA, and now I'm at a like I'll say I'm at a very decent position right now. Yeah, we can do that. We can definitely can do. I have already prepared few things for my earlier students, so if you want, I can actually give it to you people as well, so I'm like completely fine, right? Yeah. So pata hai kya, I am associated with a lot of companies, and I'm still working with iOS development. So yeah, so yeah, it's like, see, pata hai kya, I never had a look towards life, and I never thought of ki, I just want to go around and earn money. So if you'll have a mindset ki nahi, I just want to do, I'm just doing this job just because I want to earn money, trust me, you'll not go anywhere. And this, I'm not demotivating you. Getting or having the thought of earning a lot of money, that is good, but alongside with that, if you'll take your job as a learning curve, and you think that you are actually learning something out of it, yeah, if you are making, in this case, if you're learning something and you're investing something of your time to a company, and that company is actually giving you a lot of learnings, that's your most biggest investment. Because what would happen, the company actually evaluates your whole of your process, that where you actually started from, how you're working, what are you investing in the company, how much time you're investing in the company. So you know what, initially when you'll be, and I'll tell you what, right? So I've never talked to you about all of these things, Hannah. So a lot of people, even I'll say everybody in this session who is sitting out here, everybody, just you, some time or other, you might have thought, or I had this thought, that will I ever be able to earn money, like for out of whatever I have studied, will I ever be able to make money? And everybody gets this thought, trust me. I, as a child, used to have a thought that whatever I'm studying or whatever I'm learning while I was in college, in government colleges, and specifically in IITs and NITs, getting professors to actually come in the class and teach you something is like used to be a big thing. But generally that doesn't happen. So everything that we have learned, I'll not say everything, but I'll say most of the stuff that I've learned from my own. I've studied everything from my own, so I know how that feels like. But everybody gets this thought that whether I'll ever be able to earn money out of whatever I'm learning, and that happens is to every individual. And trust me, when you'll get your first job, don't ever think about how much money you're making. The whole of the process goes into learning, and the more you'll learn, the more you'll grow, and the more you'll grow, the more you learn, right? That's the case. Not really, but yeah, it does. It definitely does, right? So in that case, if you are into digital marketing, are you into digital marketing, by the way? Are you into digital marketing? If you are into digital marketing, okay, you're not, then let it be. Then let it be. But if somebody is into digital marketing, as being a digital marketing person, uh, okay, anyone here from IITs and NITs, by the way? Just having a thought, because I'm from the same background. Anyone? We can, because okay, does somebody wants to collaborate on certain projects? If you want, I can actually give you a few projects if you want. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can do a lot of stuff. So if you'll actually go to my LinkedIn and scroll down, where have I kept that? So in here, if you'll find my publication, so this was a research paper that I wrote like way long back. So you can just go through this. This was a research paper that I was talking about. So it got published on international journal and stuff. So if you'll go through this, research paper, the algorithm has been generated already. So we have designed all the algorithms, right? And that would be great. Like if you can go around and implement this up on any programming language for that matter. I'm completely okay, and I'm completely open to any programming language. So algorithm is all written. If what you can do is you can actually go around and have a look on it. So this is called as timetable generation using random numbers. So just by using random numbers, you can actually create a full-fledged timetable. And for that same, we studied up a lot of things for the same, and we came up with this algorithm. And you can actually go through the algorithm. If this algorithm will actually make sense, we can collaborate on the same thing. Because I was actually thinking of to convert this research paper into a full-fledged application, but I never get time for the same. So if you want, you can actually do that, right? So we can actually collaborate on one certain project if you want. So if you want, you can just go through the algorithm. If you'll find this algorithm is making sense to anybody, so you can actually, so we have actually demonstrated everything if you want. Okay, so you can just go around and have a look on that. Okay, you can do that. Okay, try it once. If you feel like doing it, then we can have a look on it. And if you're not, it's completely fine, right? So that's the case. That's the case. Chalo. Anything else that you wanna ask? If you wanna ask, you're not getting my LinkedIn. That's strange. I gave you the link for the LinkedIn, I believe. Just a second. You can create anything that you want. You can create a game. You can create a something like snake catch the snake, kind of like a game, a to-do list, right? You can create pretty much anything that you want. And if you would be needing suggestions, I can like give you a list of few projects that you can go around and create or build by your own. Okay. Oh, is it? Okay, you can DM me up and I'll help to sort you out. Okay. Ha. Sindhu, even you ping me up on Instagram. So whatever would be your queries, you can put your queries on my Instagram. I'll have a look on it. Okay, don't worry. What about React session? So but the React course is going to start from next Tuesday, and from Tuesday to Saturday we'll do all React for 5 days. I'll be teaching you that framework, which is React. Okay. Yeah, hooks, promises, components, reusable components. Yeah, React is very similar to JavaScript, very similar to JavaScript, but it's kind of like tough. So actually it's not tough basically, but it requires a good knowledge of JavaScript. So I'll highly recommend you go around and brush your JavaScript once before we actually go around and do something. So that would be great. Okay, because your React is completely based on JavaScript. So before we'll be actually doing something, go around and brush up your JavaScript. Go and look at whatever we have taught. Functions and DOM manipulation. That's it. If you'll go through it very carefully, you'll be able to do everything. I also watch Code with Harry. No. Okay. Yeah, you can see, that's completely personal preference. See, Sai, it's personal preference. If you feel like that you actually understand whatever he's teaching, yeah, if you're understanding, he's a good YouTuber, he's a good teacher. If you're not, that's but okay, he's good, he's definitely good. And I'm not just gonna like go around and speak something bad. Closure, I've never gone through it. Never gone through. I've only followed one YouTuber, and if somebody would be needing names, I cannot give you the names out here, definitely. But if you'd be needing names, you can DM me up and I'll give you his channel. I cannot give it right here. Proficient amongst Angular or React in the organization I'm working. I'll tell you what. It's not a matter of fact that you're working on. See, as of for me, I know all the frameworks. I know how to work on React. I know how to work on Angular. I know how to work on Vue. So it's not like you should restrict yourself towards only one framework. You can actually go around and bound up the boundaries, and actually can go around and learn other frameworks as well, and then select something out of here. Whatever you want. Certification form link. Okay, I'll give it to you. This is the form link. Make sure that everybody fills this out. Thank you, Pooja. Thank you. And so go around and fill that out, and be honest with you the feedback. Okay. You got the certificate? Oh, you might have got the certificate. I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't look at my followers. Let me see. How many followers do I have? I have around like 827 people followers. I am following around like I am following like around 232 people. You're talking about followers or follow? I don't know. Oh, never mind. I have this Schrodinger smiley kind of like thing out here. Something like this. No, I'm not into all of this. How many followers do I have and stuff like that? It's not like that. Just like, okay, I have an Instagram, that's it. No, 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 it's not like that. I can comfortably code. It's not like that. It's just a mind games and stuff. It's not like if you're working on React, then you'll not do Angular or stuff like that. It's not. It's false, right? Personal I'm telling you my personal experience. It's not like that, right? Most probably, how did you get your certificates? Most probably by email, I believe so. Hannah, most probably by email. Yeah. So you'll get it by email. So jQuery is important for React? No. I'll not use jQueries and I'll be teaching you React. It's not important. I would be having this this DP, this kind of like a DP. This would be the DP that I'd be having. So you can see me out there. So this would be the DP that I have. Right. So this is the DP that I have. So you can just okay. Any other problems or any other time? How much time does it take to learn Angular fully? Angular is a very huge framework as compared to React. React is a very small framework. Angular is very, very huge, right? So it will take a lot of time. Around like 3 to 4 months, it will take you 3 to 4 months to learn Angular if you want to learn it like very in depth. What does this mean? Schrodinger's equation. It's like a kind of like a weird scientific experiment. So in that case, it's like it's sad, but let's talk about it. It's like very sad. Yeah, no, not exact. After Angular 2, they stopped like giving updates and releases. Everything. If you're talking about corporate world, everything. Okay, if you'd be interested, you can actually go around and learn about Schrodinger's equation. This equation, if you'll go around and Google this out, you'll find a lot of information. That's like, I found it interesting, so I put it on my DP, right? So yeah, that's the case. You can actually go around and learn about this Schrodinger's. Okay, anyways, any other doubts? If you don't have any doubts, just give me a yes in the chat section and we'll end up with the session. Quickly. Just give me a yes and I am basically from Uttarakhand, Dehradun. Have you ever heard about Dehradun? Yeah. So I'm from Dehradun, by the way. Yeah, from Dehradun. It's quite famous. Is it famous? I don't know. But it's a very beautiful place. It's like, and when I came to Hyderabad, I felt so hot here. I was like, no. How many languages do I know? I actually know seven languages. Yeah, I love that city. I love that city. Yeah.